Shy Bro, Father James with Father Hank Lyon.
No.
So we talked about church music last time, and so this time we want to talk about church buildings, church architecture in a way, because Monday, November 9th, so whenever you're listening to this, which I'm not sure, whatever, Thursday, Monday, November 9th, Father Hank, is the feast of
St. John Lateran.
And November 18th is the feast of the dedication of the Basilica of Saints Peter and Paul. So it's
or St. Rose Philippine Ducensi.
I think it's Duchesne.
Duchesne, right.
Ducensi. Nice. We won't talk about St. Rosemary Ducensi. The dedication of the Basilica of St. John Lateran and the dedication of the Basilica of Saints Peter and Paul. So I don't know. I kind of have a connection since I studied in Rome for 6 years and spent many hours in these churches. But you've been to them too, Father Hank, haven't you?
Yeah, when I was a senior in high school.
So
Did not understand anything, but
yeah. Massive churches that are beautiful and have a lot of gold, and that's about all you understood, probably, right?
Yep.
But they're actually kind of cool. So what do you remember about Saints Peter and Paul, or Saint Peter?
Oh, the church, the cathedral itself.
Yeah.
I remember just, seriously, the immensity of it, the statues and everything. There's a lot of churches just that we're familiar with kind of have low ceilings, and the statues are either at eye level and just kind of, you can see the whole thing in front of you. Versus St. Peter's, I can only see maybe St. Peter's foot, in the statue, and the rest is just so above me.
Yeah, and St. Peter's...
Talk about the architecture pointing you towards heaven.
Yeah, the square, those statues on the top of the colonnade. I think Bernini did the colonnade, and the square. Bramante did most of the new basilica. They're, I think, 14 feet tall each. I mean, they're huge, and there's tons of them. I used to know all the facts and figures about it, but St. John Lateran. So there's 4 major basilicas of Rome. Do you know what they are, Father Hank? Little quiz. Ooh.
St. John Lateran.
Okay. 1.
St. Peter's Basilica.
2.
St. Paul.
Yep. St. Paul outside the walls. Yep.
St. Paul outside the wall. And is there something with John?
No, you got John Lateran was the first one. St. Mary Major, the Basilica of St. Mary Major.
Okay.
So they're the 4, I guess you could say, ancient churches: Rome, Antioch, Jerusalem, and Alexandria. And so each of those basilicas were dedicated to a specific ancient church. So St. Peter's, I believe, was Antioch, because St. Peter himself, before he went to Rome, where he died and was buried, went up to Antioch. Jerusalem, I believe, is Mary Major. St. John Lateran is Rome. Paul outside the wall is Alexandria. I think I completely butchered all those. But anyways, those 4 ancient cities. But what's misunderstood often is because the Pope lives at St. Peter's Basilica, which is in Vatican City, everyone thinks that's the Pope's main church. That's the cathedral of the Pope, if you will. But it's not, Father Hank. What is?
What?
What is the cathedral of the Pope?
St. John Lateran.
Yeah, right. St. John Lateran, the feast day that we celebrate November 9th. I think St. John Lateran is an awesome, really cool church, because a lot of the ancient Roman buildings were taken and incorporated into John Lateran. So the front doors of the Basilica of St. John Lateran were the actual doors of the Roman Senate, where Julius Caesar and Cicero and all those good guys were, and a lot of the columns and the marble was taken from the Pantheon and again the Roman Senate, these other ancient buildings. So it was kind of a cool baptism of the culture, of the secular culture, incorporating parts of of paganism into Christianity. Instead of just kind of completely eradicating the past, they appropriated it for good use. Anyways, we can talk more. We can talk a lot about those two churches. St. Peter's, like you said, that's where the Pope lives. It's huge. You've got beautiful artwork, and then Michelangelo's Pietas in there. You could fit like an entire St. Juliana into just like a little corner, St. Emily's, and just like a little side altar area. But I don't know. So let's just talk quickly while we have a few minutes about when you walk into a church building, or what do you look for in a church from an architectural point of view? You're the artist here, Father Hank. Are you looking? What are some key things that kind of fire you up, that make you say like, man, I feel like I'm in heaven here?
For one, what's all the center point? So some architects talk about what's the focus, and everything should kind of lead your eyes to that. So a lot of the focus in churches are the tabernacle is the highest point.
Ooh.
Sometimes the way the aisles can either narrow towards the center, either the rafters kind of lead you upwards too, and that would lead you up towards the apse. So the high point above the tabernacle too, and usually in old churches, in the apse you see an icon of Christ or an icon of the Father and angels. So there's kind of purpose of leading the eye around the interior of the church. I also look for color contrast. So at St. Juliana's, there's some cool color contrast going on with the side stained glass we've talked about before, kind of incorporating some natural elements of earth and like a garden motif, which you see a lot in old churches, the garden motif.
Our church was, we're painting the church ceiling right now, and which is like a blue, kind of a midnight blue, because St. Juliana, like you said, it had cool stained glass windows, but it's like it's like a sea of gray, kind of just beige. It was like gray, beige carpet. It's a massive church, and so the brick walls are gray, and then the ceiling also was tan gray. You just felt like you were in this wash of mud, right? There wasn't a ton of color. I felt like, you ever see The Giver or read the book The Giver when they're like deprived of color? It's like, we can have color in church, people. There was a movement where everything just had to be like brown, brown. And so anyways, we're painting the ceiling. And you mentioned the tabernacle. We also moved the tabernacle to the center.
Nice.
Put Christ in the center, center of our lives, center of our church. Those are some good points, though. So color, focal point.
Mm-hmm. And you see a lot of the old ancient churches that they were trying to use architecture to teach people the faith. Those that couldn't read about the faith, but they could walk through Christ's life. That's why a lot of the stained glass windows are depictions of gospel scenes. You can walk the stations of the cross.
It's excellent. Yeah, people couldn't read really back then, so you could learn about the life of Christ. Basically, it was a coloring book, the Stations of the Cross and the stained glass windows. Yeah, one of the things, my previous church, Mary Seat of Wisdom in Park Ridge, where I was the associate, their stained glass windows are they're just colors. They're like blue, and then they're just scripture quotes, which to me it's nice in a way, but it's very pretentious, because it just presumes first that you can read, which not everyone can. Not everyone can read English. They're in English. But also, like, you're going to be able to read that and immediately understand and take something from it. Whereas when you see Mary and Jesus and Joseph, the Holy Family, right, you see a family, and you think of holiness and God, or you see whatever it is, depiction of the saint holding their instrument of execution inspires you, things like that. Know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
How's St. Emily's?
It's awesome. Father Press has done a lot for the sanctuary and the interior of the church. We brought a lot of icons into the church, because it kind of also has, around that time period, just a lot of the brown. So we brought icons in because part of the church is, as actually one of the sixth graders I taught at St. Juliana said, church is like the embassy of heaven. If heaven is its own kingdom and nation. So going to church should really bring bring us into heaven, and who's in heaven but all the saints. So we brought a lot of icons in our sanctuary on the altar, and there's like a backdrop that's marble. The tabernacle is in the center. But there's also, the whole altar and sanctuary, the focal point. They're higher up than the pews are. And actually all the pews are going downward so that everyone has a clear view of the sanctuary.
Very cool. Very cool. Sounds beautiful. Not as beautiful as St. Juliana, but anyway. And then both of those are not nearly as beautiful as St. John Lateran and St. Peter. So anyways, folks, thanks for coming to church. God bless you.
Peace.